All right, so let's get into it. Here we go. So these are some of the things we worry about. I mean, it's probably not limited to this list, but we worry about money. That's a big one. We worry about relationships of all kinds. We worry about our health. We worry about our job. We worry what people are going to think of us. We worry about the future. We worry about the world. We worry about the government and our kids and our animals and our parents. And we worry about the unknown, and we worry about our plants. I mean, we worry. And so I think um, culturally and individually, we are conditioned in many ways to worry. Um, yeah. So there's no limit to what we can worry about. I think it is a response pattern. It is a response and a reaction, and we condition ourselves to do it. Yeah, and I think if we can start with that point of view and start taking that in, that it is a conditioning and something many of us were trained to do. I often talk about my own mother, the woman who raised me, was a consummate worrier and worry about not worrying. And so I grew up being a worrier, and ultimately I rarely worry. Not that I don't, and from time to time, but I rarely worry because I've learned that there's no value in it, and it actually sabotages efforts. But so I really understand a lot about what it takes to overcome that response pattern. Okay, so and here's the other thing about worry, and just in general, is that we cannot control anything. It is not possible to control anything. That we think through worry or anything else, that somehow we're influencing something in a positive way, or if we're thinking hard about something, that's somehow what we need to do, that's effective, whether it's a relationship problem or money or health. If I just, bear down on it and I think, and stay with it, that somehow that's useful. And it really isn't, because there really is no such thing as control. I think the best we can do, the most we can hope for, and what we should strive for, is being in the flow of energy and learning what is valuable in the moment, because there is no control. Sometimes we can manage our lives in a certain way. We can manage our finances, or our household, or whatever it is. But we all know, I mean, we've all seen those pictures on the news where someone's sitting in their home and a tree falls on their house, right? Or a car plows into their living room, or they walk outside and get struck by lightning. I mean, granted, these are not commonplace, but the example is true, that we never know when something can happen. We can do our best to be aware and present, but there's certain things that we just cannot prepare for. So let's talk about why we worry. We worry because we think it's useful. We have self-doubt. We doubt ourselves and whether we can take care of ourselves and whether we can cope. It's a habit, that we start doing it and then we keep doing it. And we don't think about stopping it. We just know we don't like it. We worry because we're afraid. Mostly, I think we worry because we're future tripping. We're worried about what the future, what's going to happen tomorrow. Am I going to be okay? And we also worry because we don't know what else to do. And there may be some other reasons we worry, but I think these are the ones that I recognize the most. And I said this a minute ago, we wouldn't do it if we thought it was bad for us. I mean, we don't do things because we think it's a bad idea. We do things because we think it will improve our lives, or we're just in a habit and we're not even conscious of what we're doing, and it's just something that happens automatically, which is, I think, commonplace with worry. And on the self-doubt piece, so much of not worrying includes the ability to trust life. And trusting life means that we have to be able to trust ourselves. It's a dance between us and consciousness at large. And fear comes in all forms. The unknown, it's like we don't know what's going to happen. And so we feel nervous about that, and it can turn into fear, or perhaps we've had something negative happen in the past and we're afraid it will happen again. And so that leads us into the future tripping, where we're like, thinking of all these different scenarios that could come to pass, and we want to avoid those scenarios. And so we focus on the negative polarity. And then I think that leads us to the fact that we just don't know what else we can do in that moment. And I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to have some to-dos. And then, of course, it becomes a habit. So I think that's where we want to begin, that it becomes a habit. And in order to change a habit, we have to replace it with another. And I learned this some years ago when I first started learning about affirmations. I don't know if any of you have either, but it takes anywhere from 24 to 30 days to change a thought pattern and create the new neural pathway in the brain. And I don't know how many of you remember the story of the NASA astronauts. This is back in the early 90s, I believe, late 90s, early 2000s. I'm forgetting, but they were prepping for space travel, and they were given these goggles that inverted everything. And I'm sure it was for being in zero gravity situations. So we had the goggles on, up was down and down was up. And a lot of the astronauts got nauseous and headaches and were having a really hard time with this disorientation. And they had to sleep with them on as well. And then around day 24, the first person got up one day, and down was down and up was up. And they felt for the goggles on their eyes, and the goggles were still there. And so that really just showed the process of how our brain adapts to stimulus. And so, and then within a few days, everybody followed suit. The down was down and up was up, regardless if they had these glasses on or not. That's pretty remarkable when you think about the power of our brain in that way. And so this is one of the reasons affirmations can be useful. It's just part of the thing with affirmations is it takes enormous amount of repetition, and you really have to stay with it. And any habit, if you can stay with it and really inundate yourself with an idea for 24 to 30 days, you're going to have a really good head start on changing the habit. So we really do have to make a decision. And sometimes it's a decision. Sometimes it's just we're sick and tired of feeling miserable. That has always been the way I have oriented. Everybody's different. But I often tell the story of my own fears around money some years ago, and just worrying constantly about it. It was just relentless. And just the second I paid my bills at the first of the month, I was nervous about the next month. And I was 4 weeks away from the next month. And I was so tired of that grip of torture and worry. One day I just sat down and I took a stand for myself. I said, enough of this. I am tired of feeling like this. And I am not going to give one more minute of myself to something that feels this awful. And it wasn't that easy in terms of, just I snapped my fingers and it was over. But I learned a method that I would sit with myself for however long it took. In that instance, I think it took 45 minutes that first time, where I said, I am going to stop feeling guilty about this, that, or the other. I am going to feel happy about my life. I'm going to surrender in this moment. I am not going to feel crappy. I will be all right no matter what happens to me. I am not going to feel like crap. And I just kind of worked through all my inner narrative, and it took me 45 minutes, and eventually I relaxed and I felt better. And that particular story, I remember within a couple of days, some enormous check that I was not expecting came to my house. And so that gave me some results to my process. It's like, my God, I'm so glad I didn't worry for the 48 hours that led up to receiving that check. And this is part of the thing about changing an energetic pattern, that you will get rewarded, if you want to use that word. You will get something back that can encourage you on to continue in that line of thinking and behaving. And so that was a beginning for me. And so for that particular instance, you will rarely, if ever, find me worrying about money. I won't do it. And I'm not going to really worry about anything. And it's not that I won't think about something, and I'll talk more about that in a minute, but when I go into a contracted pattern, it's my job to stop the contraction. It's not my job to change my circumstance. It's my job to change my inner narrative. And when I do that, everything works out beautifully. So changing the habit and replacing it for another. So my habit of worry, 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 worry was replaced with, oh no, now I'm going to change it to focusing on my inner narrative. Yours may be different. And then here's the other kicker that we have to factor in. Everything is energy, full stop. There's nothing in our reality that is not vibrational, frequency, energetic. Our thoughts are energy. Things are energy. Even inanimate objects, put it under a microscope, you're going to see those atoms and molecules moving around. Intentions are energy. What we think we want for ourselves, what we're focusing on, that's energy too. Feelings, how I feel about what I'm doing, is energy. And of course, in quantum physics work, law of attraction work, it's all about like attracts like, that we're going to accumulate speed in a certain energy. We'll talk about momentums more in a minute. But we're either going to play the game and get in the game of working with energy, or we're not. And again, if we have momentums built up that have accumulated their own form of consciousness, which happens, and we have a habit and a pattern of thinking things or having emotional reactions towards things in a certain way, we kind of have to get it to stop. We have to bring it to a halt and then move it in another direction. So it's not passive. We have to be awake and intentional about how we're focusing ourselves. Now look at, it's not always, we can't always do it 24/7. It's just like, if we're trying to get in shape, we can't exercise 24/7. We can do what we can do. But this is, again, how do I stay in the flow of energy in this moment? And what can I do in this moment to dial back a number 10 in intensity to an 8? Because any reduction in contracted energy is useful to our process. But if we remember that it's energetic, and we can, this is why I wrote The Energy of Abundance. I talk about playing the energy game. It's about, can you play it? Can you disconnect enough from your mind and the things that are happening in your daily moment to play it? Can you try something different? And here's the other thing. This graphic is prepared on purpose this way. When we are worrying, we think it's something to do, or we're doing something. It makes us feel, okay, I must be doing something. I'm worrying about it. But developing the right focus for the right energy is doing something. I can't tell you how many times in my life when I've been heated up in the moment of anger or upset or something, when I've taken an action and I thought I was really clear and it was the right thing to do, and then it bit me in the behind after the fact, right? Best laid plans, right? And then on reflection, my ego or my emotion got the better of me and caused me to choose. So learning how to focus on being in the flow, taking myself out of contraction and staying in balance, because even emotion itself, even positive emotion, can take us off balance because we're no longer sitting in the center of who we are. We're either pulled in a direction of super happiness or giddiness, or we can be in the negative polarity of super sad and in scarcity and lack. So that the goal is to really to try and stay in the middle, to try and stay in the center so we can be as objective as possible. And when we're developing the core strength, the emotional strength, and the mental strength, the concentration, the ability to do that, that is something. And that not probably, it does matter more than anything else. And I can say one of the practices I've gotten into doing in my life is many times a day, especially if I'm wound up and I'm in go mode, and just because I can get myself really, I like to move energy around. I like to get things done. I'm in go mode, but that cannot be a good thing too, because then I skip over my feelings and I may not be in the flow of energy. So I about maybe 7-8 times a day, I will stop. I will close my eyes and I will put my energy behind my third eye or in between my eyes, and I'll take a breath and I get centered for a moment. I take an evaluation of my being. It doesn't take a super long time. Sometimes I'll do more time if I have it, but I do my very best at this point to make sure my focus is on the right energy. Right energy meaning I feel like I'm in a flow. Right energy meaning I don't have resistance. Am I always successful? No, I'm not always successful getting out of it, but at least I bring it down a notch, and I at least become aware that something is active in my process. And this is what I was really touching on a minute ago, that momentum is real. And depending upon when we make our decision or to approach life differently, we can have 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe even more, years of life of orienting in a certain way. And those choices we've been making all those years, not only is it momentum, but every time we create something, it forms its own consciousness, and a consciousness creates energy, and energy is what creates tangible outcomes. So we've created a little universe within our universe. We have 4 or 5 different worlds probably happening in our own psyche and our own little worlds from the thoughts and emotions that we experience. So the reason I talk about this is because it's a thing. And so even though I am highly accomplished at working with worry and scarcity and all that stuff, it doesn't mean it never kind of knocks on my, the periphery of my awareness. It's like, yeah, there it is. Doesn't mean that challenging things never come up. It gets my ability to not go there is stronger and stronger and stronger. And the amount of time I spend in dark places is less and less and less and less the more I practice. But those voices do come up every now and then. I just go, oh, look at that. So some of these things is kind of like scars or wounds or whatever you want to call it. They live with us, and it doesn't mean that they may never come up, but then we look at it differently and we put them to bed more quickly. But at the beginning, and depending where you are in your own process, you have to contend with momentum. You have to be committed, and it requires focus. Okay. So we're going to try this right now, but this is something that I think is really remarkable. And I do this myself. It's a little bit what I was referencing a moment ago, that every time we focus on a single breath, we stop our mind. So let's just try it right now so you can see I mean, you're listening to me speak right now, but if you had your mind going 90 miles an hour Or you thought, I have 100 things on my to-do list and I don't have time to sit down. I don't have time to stop. I can't do this. I can't do that. Whatever it is. If you just stop for a minute and pay attention to your breath and on purpose, take a breath, that's what you're focused on. You just take a breath. I mean, just do it right now. Just focus on taking a breath, and suddenly it stops your mind. There's no thoughts. Even it's for 0.4 seconds. It's like you have stopped the mind. And that's huge. And everybody should feel what that's like when you just take that breath. And then when you think about the power of many breaths together, when you can get relief from that one intentional focus on your breath, inhale, exhale. It's kind of remarkable what could happen. And that's why meditation is such a game changer. I mean, there's nothing like silencing the mind. There's just nothing like silencing the mind to make us a receiver and to end the torture. I mean, truly. I mean, when the mind is going, it is exhausting. And we do all kinds of games, whether we are overeaters, whether we are over drinkers, whether we are overspenders, over exercisers, it doesn't matter. We do all kinds of things to distract us from being with ourselves. But the other thing, just when we are able to stop the mind, and I know those of you who might have been in the ongoing meditation group, it's like, if you can just do 10 or 15 minutes a day, within a week's time, you are going to see and witness how your life flows more effortlessly and easily. It just simply does, by creating that space, the distance from the brilliant mind that wants to control everything. It's really quite remarkable. So as much meditation, and I talked about a minute ago, 7 or 8 times a day, I stop just for a couple of minutes, just to get back in alignment. Sometimes I do longer, sometimes I don't, but I notice what a difference it makes. And I notice how differently people respond to me. It changes my energy. And people who are devout meditation experts and do it for hours and hours on end, I mean, they have a different perspective about it, but there's a reason, and it's experiential. It's like many things that deal with intangibles are experiential. You have to put in the time to experience the net result before it starts to make sense. But if you could just look at this one, start with the one breath and prove for yourself, make it prove, for yourself that it's real, that it has something for you. You're ahead of the game. All right, so here's we're going to get into some to-dos. And for me, this is the biggest one. Learn how to replace worry with trust. And this falls under the category of focus. Okay, I'm really, really worried about X, Y, or Z. Now my job is to put my focus on how I can relax into trust that this is for my highest good, that things are working out how they're supposed to, that I can let go of the reins and let life organize around trust itself, as opposed to organize around worry. And I would say this is the biggest game changer for me. It's such flipping the coin. And if I were to suggest that you only master this one thing, it would be this: trust your moment. And whatever you have to do to figure out how to get there, that's your journey. That's your job. Because if every time you find yourself in a complexity of a moment and you say, wait a second, I'm contracted, I'm upset, I don't like this, I'm freaked out. And we say, well, how can I get to trust? Depending on what it is, for me, it typically takes some inner narrative, inner dialogue, might take talking it out with somebody. I don't know, depending on what it is. But I can promise you, in my world, I am not going to be sitting in worry anytime soon that I can help it. And the reason, as we talked about vibrationally, worry is not even a mid-level vibration. It's a low-level vibration, very sluggish. It's going to slow down anything you're trying to make happen. And sometimes it puts in your creative process things you don't want. You're actually praying for what you don't want to have happen. So it isn't that it's meaningless. And I always wonder, it doesn't do anything for us to worry, but make us feel terrible and infect our creative processes. So why not just go with what feels good? Why won't we do that? I think we think we're protecting ourselves from disappointment if we don't trust. Disappointment in life is inevitable, but if we aren't open and if we aren't striving to stay in a state of openness and trust, we don't have a chance really of getting what we want. And then we create the consciousness of distrust or worry. And then we get a self-fulfilling prophecy. I had people talk to me about, am I cursed? I got that the other day. Am I cursed? I don't believe in curses. However, the things we do, the consciousness we create within our own world about this bad, I can never have a relationship, or my money's always going to be terrible, or I can't ever find the correct career, or whatever it is. We've created a consciousness that is generating energy, and which is creating tangible outcomes. And if we get those momentums going, and we create enough self-fulfilling prophecies, yes, life is going to feed us exactly what we believe it's feeding us. And if we think there's lack and limitation, that's what we're going to get. And I think at the root of this, understanding how immensely powerful we are. We don't think about that. I mean, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. I was like, do you believe you're a spiritual being, that there's an intangible reality, or do you think it's just the 3D, the human experience? You die, you're buried, that's it. What is it? So that's the other piece. Are you going to believe in the intangible reality enough that you can give yourself to it? And I think the only thing you have to decide is, do I want to feel good? So this is not the one thing I would, if there's nothing else you worked on, it would be this. When you're having a worry about money, if you're having worry about your health, if you're having worry about your job, if you're having worry about your relationships, figure out how to trust that what is happening is for you. Look for why it's good, why it's serving you, and master that. So here's another thing that I work with. Consider the best case and the worst case scenarios. Work from the end back and make peace with both. When I think about those days when I was struggling so much financially, I would just say to myself, universe, do your worst. I am going to be fine. I will work it out. I will figure it out. But I am not going to feel terrible for one more minute. Do it. I just do whatever you want. Take my car, take my house. I am not going to worry about it. I'll go stay with friends. I will, whatever. I'll ride a bike. I don't know. I just do it. I am not going to sacrifice my inner well-being one more minute. And then that helped me surrender. Maybe it won't you, but for me, making peace with the worst case worked for me. I was able to say, all right, If this is my truth, it's my truth. I will work my way from that position, but I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to worry about it. But the other piece is there's also a best case scenario. And I can't tell you how many people I talk to say, you know what, why don't we practice the best case scenario? Let's forget about the worst case. Let's just play with the best case. And I know, gosh, it's probably been 10 years now. I read an article on, I think it was USA Today. I'm not sure the magazine, but a woman had been worrying about money forever. And she decided, you know what? I just for the next year, for every day, I am not going to worry about it. Just not. And when she got through the end of that year, she was in an incredible financial position, and she had all kinds of amazing things happen to her that she could have never predicted. But I looked at that article and I thought, she didn't know she was playing the energy game. She didn't know she was being intentional, other than she was tired of worrying and she decided not to. But it really was a testament that we can change our lives by changing our thoughts first. And then life organizes around the consciousness that those thoughts create. And that's what we talked about earlier. And all of this leads us to that we have to have a method to surrender, that to get us to that point where we're like, whatever, I'm not going to feel crappy. I'm going to feel good about my life. I'm going to feel good about myself. And for me, some of these are the things that help me get there. I pay attention to myself. It's like, if I don't feel like working, I'm not going to work. If I'm upset, I'm going to do something that cheers me up or that's nurturing. For me, I'm kind of a movement junkie. It really helps me to move my body around. Or if none of these things work, I'm going to ask for help. I'm not going to try and sort it or manage it or carry it alone. If it's too much for me, I'm not going to ask that of myself. And a lot of people have trouble asking for help. They don't want to ask for help. They think that's a negative. It's not. Asking for help is a beautiful thing. It just says so much about trust, and it says so much about, other people, that you trust humanity at large, and that there's a goodness in people. And if you think about yourself, if someone asks you for help, darn good and well, if you can, you're going to, because it feels good. So we have to learn how to ask for help when we need it. And the other thing is, when things have been really bearing down, whether it's emotional or financial or whatever, I just remember, what? Now is not for forever. And Eckhart Tolle, of course, is the master of reminding us of now, that now is the only moment we have. And so if we're okay now, that's all we need to think about. We don't have to think 5 steps ahead or a year ahead or 5 years ahead. We only need to think, is this moment I'm in, am I okay now? And if it's a hard moment, well, it's not long before a better moment will come. And then, of course, for me, I spend a lot of time and have spent a lot of time understanding the value of the struggle. Human beings think that happiness is pleasure and comfort. It's just the human condition. But the soul wants to evolve itself. It wants to expand itself, and experiences that cause expansion to occur is joyous to the soul because it expands the greater consciousness as well. So when we understand that what we're going through isn't just for us, that it's for the collective, and it's also for our own collective well-being. When we understand that there's strength we're gaining, and that we are becoming better because of what we're doing, if we choose to look at it that way, that if we're always mining the gold rather than seeing how this is serving me rather than what it's taking from me, that really helps. And I can say from my own life story, which has been challenging at the very least, I get to do the work I get to do, and it helps my life make sense. Makes perfect sense. Why I would have gone through all the things I've gone through to be able to do what I do. Makes perfect sense. So, but we all have to develop our own method to surrender. And that's a personal journey for you. What causes you to pull the plug on frustration and disappointment and upset? What's going to make it happen? And if we get to a point where we can't make it happen, the best thing we can do is to stop thinking or go to sleep or something. But you have to remember, the more you're thinking about that awful thing that's going on in your life, the more you're feeding that. So if you can just disconnect from that by going to sleep or however you can, that's the next best thing. And ultimately, no matter what's going on in our lives, whatever's working and what isn't working, the goal should be to do everything humanly possible to please yourself, truly please yourself, to be able to laugh, to forgive yourself for anything that you think needs forgiving. Don't hold on to things that cause you to be conditional with yourself. Really learn how to love yourself. Some of us can love others so well, but we can't do it for ourselves. We have to learn how to give to others, how we give that to ourselves. Just as when I was talking a moment ago about help, that many of us don't want to ask for help. It's the same thing. We deserve to be proud of ourselves. We deserve to care about ourselves no matter what the condition of our life is in. And the worse condition of our life, the worse the condition of our life, the more we deserve love, not the less. And take time for yourself in all ways. Whether it's taking time for yourself isn't just vacations. Taking time for yourself means when you are out of balance energetically, take time to get yourself into energetic balance, that you're in a good place psychologically, emotionally, because that's the energy you're creating your life with. It's in your best interest and everyone's interest that you are your best self. When we're out in the world, if we're angry and upset and feeling crappy about ourselves, we're going to behave differently than if we're feeling honored and we're admiring ourselves and our confidence is up. We're going to treat people differently. People are going to perceive us differently. And that impacts directly how we orient to others in the world and how others feel as well. I've often told a story about right after I lost my twins. It was a bad time. It was hard. And one day I finally got my act together, and I still had a big belly from being pregnant. And so, so I looked terrible, put on my overalls and decided to go to the grocery store. And, my husband at the time wasn't home. So I go to the store and I'm feeling like total crap. But the cash register, got up to the cashier, said, "Oh, hi, how are you doing today?" And the way she said it was so kind and so upbeat. I just felt her kindness and her personality, and it changed my day. And so I had a hard time getting myself to the store, but I was met with the store with this lovely cashier person. So it just goes to show how our state of being and how we show up in the world can really make all the difference in the world. Like Gandhi talks about, be the peace you want to see in the world. It's the same concept. If we are taking care of our own energy, we're taking care of the world. And enjoy your life, because if we're enjoying our life, our vibration is high. It's all vibration at the end of the day. And this is where, if we can focus on energy, focusing on the energy, then we are playing the energy game, and we are above, you have the events of life happening. And then when you're playing the energy game, you're above the events of life happening, because the events are the outcome. They're the manifestation of your creations, of your momentums. And so the more you can put yourself up there to really watch your energy, the happier you're going to be, and the more you're going to turn the table on all of these challenges.